Hello and Erev Shabbat Shalom. This is Rabbi Elton from the Great Synagogue, and this is the last of our Friday morning Rashi learnings because as of Parashat Noach, next Shabbos, not this one tomorrow, but next Shabbos, I'll be back giving this shiur at 8:30 in the shul before the morning service on Shabbat begins, and I hope I'll see you there. We're looking at the fourth aliyah of Parashat Noach, chapter 8, starting at verse 16. The flood has come and gone, and now Noah and his family and all the animals are being told to leave the ark and repopulate the world. And the verse says, Tzei min teva, go out of the ark, leave the ark, atav ishtacha, you and your wife, uvanecha, and your sons, unushevanecha itach, and your daughters-in-law with you. Rashi says, Ish ve'ishto, a man and his wife, kan hitir lahem tashmish hamita. From here we see that now sexual relations were permitted again. It would have been insensitive and improper for the people in the ark to carry on having sex when the whole world was drowning outside. That would be deeply insensitive, and so sexual relations were not permitted in the ark. But now that the waters have subsided, it's time to repopulate the earth. Now, once again, marital relations are permitted. Kol hachaya asher itcha, mikol basar ba'of behema, v'chol haremes haromes al haaretz, Haitzei itach, all the wild animals which are with you, and all flesh, birds, animals, everything that creeps on the ground, should go out with you. V'shartzu ba'aretz, and swarm across the earth, ufaru v'ravu al aretz, and multiply and be fruitful over the earth. Now this word haitzei is pronounced hey yud tzadi aleph, but it's written Hey Vav Tzadi Aleph. That's what's called a Kri and Ketiv. Ketiv is how it's written. Ketubah, for example, is the same word. And Kri, Balkora, Balkriya, is how it's read. And we can sometimes learn things from the distinction between how a word is written in the Torah and how it is read. Rashi says, Hotzei Ketiv, it's written as Hotzei. Haitzei Kri, but it's actually read as Haitzei. Haitzei Emor Lehem She Yetzu. So Haitzei means tell them to go out. Hotzei means im einam rotzim latseis hotzi aim ata. If they don't want to go out, schlepp them out. They won't leave by their own accord, make them go. And now, the shartzu va'aretz, let them swarm across the earth. V'lo b'teva, they weren't to swarm in the ark itself. Magid she'af habahema v'ha'of ne'esru. Even the animals weren't allowed to have sex in the ark. So they went out, Noah went out, and also verse 19, Kol hachaya v'kol haremes v'kol ha'of, all the wild animals, and all the swarming things, and all the birds, Kol romes ha'aretz, they all swarmed over the land, L'mishbechoseim yatsu min ha'teva, they all went out according to their families from the ark. Now what's it mean according to their families? So kiblo alehem al menah davek biminam. They went out on the proviso that they would only mate with their own species. So before the ark, before the flood, there was mating across species, but from the time of the ark onwards, after the flood, post deluge, there was only mating within a species. I think that's one of the definitions of a species. If you can't mate with it, it's not part of your species. Verse 20. What did Noah do after he got out of the ark? Yivei Noach mizbeach, he built an altar, Lashem to God. V'yikach mikola behema hatahora, and he took from all of the kosher animals, mikola of hatahora, all the kosher birds, v'ya'al olos bamizbeach, and he brought up these as offerings on the altar. So these poor animals, they'd just survived the whole flood. They thought, right, we're out, we're saved, we're all's good, and then next thing they know, they're shechted. They're slaughtered on an altar. And what was Noah's logic? Well, if you think back, although we sing the animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah, in fact, only the non-kosher animals went in 2 by 2. The kosher animals went in 7 by 7. So, what did Noach say to himself? Ama lo, siva li HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'hachnis me'elu zayin zayin, ela kidei la'akriv korban mehem. The only reason that God told me to bring in 7 of the kosher species is because I needed some in order to sacrifice. So if he just asked me to bring in 2, then if I killed one as sacrifice, that would be end of that species. So the 7 by 7 of the kosher species is so that sacrifices could be brought at the end, and that's what he did. So the sacrifice is offered up, and then God responds. Vayorach Hashem esreach hanichoach, and God sensed, or observed, took notice of, the sweet savour that came from the sacrifice, the fact that, not the smell, we've discussed this before in this year, not the smell in and of itself, smell as smell, but God taking note of Noah's willingness to make a sacrifice and looking well upon that deed. Vayom Hashem el libo, and God said, Lo osif lekalel od es hadamah bavor hadam ki yetze lev hadam ra minurav. He said, no more I'm going to curse the earth on account of man, because the truth is that a person from their earliest youth has a wicked element to them. There's no point expecting pure goodness from humanity. You're not going to find it. One of my favourite quotations from Hegel, out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. So God is saying there's no point waiting around for man to be perfect and to destroy him every time he's not. That's not going to lead to much of a future for humanity. So he puts aside destruction. Lo osif od lahakos es kol chai kasher asisi. I'm no longer going to strike all living things as I have previously done. And now Rashi says, minurav, so because it's spelt with a vav, you can actually read it more than one way. So he says it could be read in this way. Misha ninar, from the time that the baby in the womb starts moving, laseis mimei imo, in order to get out of the womb. So from the moment the baby is still in utero starts making efforts to get out, to be born, nitan bo yetzahara, God gives it an evil inclination. So even a newborn child has an evil inclination. Doesn't mean it's done anything wrong, but it already, it seems, has an inclination towards doing the wrong thing. That's just the way people are born, and therefore there's no point expecting them to be perfect. Now, Rashi then notices, or the rabbis of the Talmud notice, and Rashi reports it, this double use of the term lo osif, never again will I destroy humanity. Why does it say it twice? Kafal hadavar lishva. God says it twice in order, as it were, to make an oath. Husha kosov, and in fact this oath is referred to in the Haftarah, which we read for Parashat Noach from the book of Isaiah. Asher nishbati me avor me Noach. God says, I'm never again going to cause the waters to spread over the earth as I did in the time of Noah, as I promised I wouldn't. Well, where's the promise? Lo matzinu bar shva. We don't find this oath made by God. So the book of Isaiah says that God made an oath never to drown the earth again. We don't find an oath explicitly in the Torah. Elazo shakafol devarav, but through this doubling of the language, v'yishvua, this is a shvua. So an oath is achieved, can be achieved by just doubling language. V'chein darshu chachamim v'mesech shvuos, and in fact, in the Talmudic tractate that deals with oaths, this point is made. So it even works legally. Rabbi Phil will be with you at 6 o'clock for the last online Kabbalat Shabbat, because again we return for Parashat Lech Lecha the 15th, Friday the 15th of October into Shul. So there'll be a final Kabbalat Shabbat online this evening at 6 o'clock. Wish everyone a Erev Shabbat Shalom and look forward to seeing you in Shul. Please go when we reopen. Everyone stay well and God bless.